Okay, amazing. Welcome to our Tuesday team training. My name is Emily Otten. I'm one of the 6 NMDs and above on Team Legacy Peak, and I'm so honored and grateful to introduce my friend Haylie. So first of all, thank yourself for being on today. One of my favorite parts about the team calls is really just staying plugged in every week. I know in the last 8.5 years of me being in the Juice Plus business, these team calls are always what keep me close to the fire and remind me why I started and inspire me and encourage me. And I'm excited that you're here today. So if you're listening to the recording, go ahead and send this to someone that you think of, because I know you're going to think of people while you hear Haylie's story. So Haylie and I have connected through this community and become close sideline sisters, and I'm beyond grateful that she said yes to being a guest speaker on our team call today. So I'm going to introduce her, and her name's Haylie Anderjaska, and she is all heart and 100% responsibility. She has done this business all out because it's a worthy cause and continually says things like, I get to do this. Haylie graduated with a degree in agriculture, leadership, and communications with a minor in entrepreneurship. Prior to Juice Plus, she worked as a learning solutions designer full-time from home virtually. Haylie, you'll have to tell us what that's about. And it has been such a joy just to really get to know Haylie. She is a brand new NMD 12 Club. And for Haylie, there's no such thing as an excuse. Challenges are faced with a determined spirit and the knowledge that the only true success is growth. Haylie is the most determined, most humble, most responsible person I know for doing what is right and working through the hard to get to the other side. So I am so honored to get to introduce her, and I know her story will bless you guys today. So Haylie, go ahead and unmute yourself. And thank you just for saying yes to sharing your story on our team call. We're super grateful.
Of course. Thanks for asking me. I didn't expect to notice names on here of people that I've been following, like Julie and Tori. So my stomach's flipping a little bit. I'm gonna try to go through my story as quickly as I can without leaving things out. And honestly, it's kind of hard to talk about our full story because I feel a little bit crazy. My husband and I question often, like, were things really how they were before we started? And so, yeah, I want time for questions. So if you think of things, feel free to chat them or make a note. But our story with Juice Plus started a little over 5 years ago. But first, what our life looked like before that. I was really young. I think I was 5 when I started having breathing trouble. I would ask my mom, who turned the air off and was diagnosed with asthma. I had allergies, and both of these things affected my life a lot more than I realized they did because I was really just used to it. I didn't know any different. Anything that went around, I got sick with. The doctor's office and the hospital were not unfamiliar places to me. I don't know that I was ever not on some kind of medicine, steroid, something. Like there was always something that I was doing. But yeah, these things really weren't a big deal to me. I knew how to manage them, and I didn't remember what life was like before that. After graduating from college, my husband and I got married. And after just a few months of marriage, we found out we were expecting our first baby. I think I was okay for 1 week before I started to get really sick. And I'd heard plenty about the first trimester, so I knew that that must just be what was going on. But fairly early on, our doctor talked to us about hyperemesis, or HG. It's severe and excessive vomiting. Physically, it meant I could not keep food down, and oftentimes I couldn't keep liquids down as well. I would have to get IVs. Basically, the next step from where I was tube feeding. So at this point, I had to stop working because it was such a struggle to be up. I would take Unisum and I would sleep, and there was never a point through my pregnancy that was like normal or okay. Emotionally, I think it was harder. I felt like a burden to my work, my family, and worst of all, my brand new husband. We'd been married less than a year and we were already experiencing in sickness and in health. I remember being in the ER and him standing over me emotional and said, I had no idea how many health problems you had. He had no idea, truly, because prior to having kids, I thought they were all normal. It wasn't until things got worse that I even considered the thought that it wasn't actually okay. We had an unplanned C-section with our first baby, which came with a whole new host of emotions and problems. And within her first year, she was on multiple rounds of antibiotics. Between her and I, we were driving 45 minutes one way to the doctor at least once a month. She wasn't gaining weight. She was chronically constipated, and she was what seemed like constantly sick. And I was so tired and confused. A few months later, we found out we were expecting again. Our babies would be a little bit over a year apart, and we were warned that the hyperemesis would be worse. And it was. My body had hardly healed from the first pregnancy and C-section, and everything physically hurt. My husband would help me in and out of bed, up and down the steps. I was in so much pain, and very early on, we found out that all my lab work was bad. Our doctor hospitalized me for a week just to monitor things because they did not know what was going on. It led to me starting a bunch of vitamins. They would inject B6 straight into my vein. I did more IVs, and everything just was taking more time and more time and more money and more money. And my work, my daily work became trying to keep vitamins down, which almost never happened. It seemed like such a waste of money and effort, but I was so scared about what was happening to our baby. This is when my mom, who's a retired nurse, told me about Juice Plus. It made immediate sense to her because she knew people weren't getting enough fruits and vegetables. She talked about how it had a food label, and I was quick to make the assumption it was probably junk. If everything we were already spending money on and doing wasn't helping, then I did not understand how food was going to do anything for me. She talked about the research, and she talked about it being bioavailable, and I really just didn't care. She did not get it, and she did not understand what we were going through. For my sanity, I really needed her to stop. She came with me to one of my appointments because I asked her to, and I asked in front of her, one of my doctors, about Juice Plus. And he responded, Haylie, this is the most researched nutritional health product in the world. I know that it doesn't have any side effects. It won't hurt you or the baby. And I would just do it until the end of your pregnancy. I was so confused again. My mom gifted us some of hers, just the fruits and vegetables. And within a few weeks, my lab work was good. Our doctors were shocked. We did not understand because the food label compared to all the other labels of things that we were paying for it just didn't make any sense. The bioavailability, the research, we were asking a lot of questions. And then we started asking, if this was the most researched nutritional health product in the world, why hadn't anyone told us about it to begin with? With a 1-year-old and being pregnant, I was noticing more and more how many products for our health you couldn't have or use if you were pregnant or breastfeeding, had certain health conditions, were in a certain age, and it didn't make sense to me. If something was truly good for your body's health, I believed that it should be good for everybody every day. And I shouldn't have to worry about my toddler getting into it, overdosing, any of that. And I think that was the first thing that really, really made sense to me about Juice Plus. Without understanding the research, any of that, that made sense to me. The hyperemesis continued throughout my pregnancy. So it was amazing to us that still, with the little bit of nutrition that it seemed like I was getting, Juice Plus had still improved our labs. And yeah, our lab work was all we'd noticed at that point. Had they not been taking my labs every few weeks, I wouldn't have noticed anything. I didn't feel any different. I was the one in our family that started eating Juice Plus, and in hindsight, it really wasn't for me. It was for my 1-year-old daughter who I didn't know how to help. It was for my baby in the womb who I was terrified I couldn't get to the due date. And it was for my husband who was trying to keep things together. I didn't start eating Juice Plus because I believed that things would get better. My mom shared it with me because it's what love required, and I started eating it for the same reason. We needed to order our own, and not long after that, and in that short time, my husband was already on board with my daughter and I continuing to eat the product. So we ordered and partnered with the company a week before having our second baby. I was not going to do anything with the business, but it was nice to get a little lower cost since we hadn't ever been given that option with any of the other things we were doing for our health. We tried to VBAC with our second and instead had our second C-section. My postpartum health was shockingly different. The only thing that we had done differently at that point was add Juice Plus. Before my maternity leave was over, we knew something had to change. The first time I ordered, we decided I would partner with the company. We were both working full time and we were about to have 2 babies under 2. The amount of money we were making was enough so that like making money from the business really didn't motivate me. I liked that we were saving money, but I didn't feel like we needed to make more money. We didn't have the time that we wanted together. So we agreed that I definitely was not going to be spending my time on a business. I had also studied entrepreneurship in college and had even written a few business plans. And I knew that these type of businesses weren't something that I would do. I definitely was not going to start something while raising kids. And I knew that starting a business took a huge amount of time, money, and sacrifice. And I wanted a business, but I really didn't want to do that until our kids were older. So with 2 babies under 2, we were starting to consider something that we had never even talked about. Me leaving my full-time job and our benefits package. We both knew that continuing to do what I was doing lacked integrity with the people that I really loved working for and working with. It was not where my focus was anymore. I was trying to just get through the day with my mind constantly in other places. And as hard as I looked for reasons that I wouldn't want to be home or that it wouldn't work to be home, we found possibilities and a little bit of hope that it could work and that it was actually intended to work. Everything I was doing in my job, there could be a replacement for, but there was no replacement for me and the work in our home. And I only had a limited amount of time with my kids being little. The harder I tried to ignore and avoid this, the worse I felt. We were 2 years into marriage with 2 kids under 2, and we were questioning a lot. We had good jobs that we liked, and we worked with great people. What was wrong with us? Why didn't it feel like this was working? And why did we even have kids if we didn't have time with them? We took a huge leap of faith, and I left my job with the only thought being, I'm employable and I can find something if I need to. My Juice Plus upline continued to be friendly, even though I really didn't know any of them. My Juice Plus upline was connected to me by my sister-in-law. And on a call I had agreed to get on, I heard 2 words, benefits package. This piqued my interest, but more so because I felt like I had definitely joined something that was a scam. A lot of the things that I'd heard about these companies, I was realizing must be true. So I started talking to people and started asking a lot of questions. Making money back was really nice, but it wasn't necessary. Eating the products had already saved us thousands of dollars at this point on our health. I'd come off meds. It was crazy. Our family didn't have sick visits anymore. So yeah, the more questions I asked, the more I was shocked. This business model was something I had never learned about in my entire minor in entrepreneurship. It was a hybrid, and the more that I learned, the more I wanted to know. And most of the people I was learning from were moms who had more kids than me and more time with their kids. I could not understand. All along, while nursing babies, folding laundry, and trying to keep our life together, I would listen to people's stories and was equally, if not more, in shock. How is this the most researched nutritional health product in the world, and we hadn't known about it sooner? and it's fruits and vegetables. Like, it seemed crazy, like a joke. And a reckless hope in healing started to grow in me, and I got a little bit out of control. And then we were expecting again. My husband had found a new job, which led to us moving away from my family and my hometown to an even smaller town where we knew no one. The Juice Plus conference was a few months after I partnered with the company, and I no longer was helping to provide financially. And we were expecting. We were going to have 3 kids under 3. I knew I could not handle another pregnancy like the last 2. Pregnancy sickness started, but nothing like I'd previously experienced. I cautiously waited for the major sickness to completely stop our life again, and it didn't happen. It was shockingly different, to the point I was working out and had great energy with 2 other babies. The month of conference, my husband was already moved to our new town while our 2 kiddos and I started packing. I went to conference knowing no one and sharing a room with someone I'd never met. I didn't want to travel anymore. I had just left that to be home with my kids. I honestly have no clue what I was doing there. It was probably irresponsible, and it was probably selfish. It was probably reckless with our finances. I hadn't studied health, and I had no right doing a business like this, let alone leaving my family to go be with other people that were. This was a huge point in our story, though, that we really can only give credit to God. My husband said to go. He said, if nothing else, it would give me a break. And worst case scenario, I would decide that this wasn't for me, and I would have more peace about not doing anything with it anymore. I didn't go to conference to build a bigger business, to learn more about the products, or to get away. It was actually incredibly difficult to get away, and I did not want to be away from my kids. I think I went out of fear of our life continuing on the same road it had been on, and out of a little bit of hope that maybe it could improve just a little bit. There are some things that you can't unsee and you can't unhear, and that was basically my entire conference experience. There were so many things that challenged me, not just in health and in business, but in my motherhood and our marriage, which really were what was most important to me and still are. Shortly after conference, I hit sales coordinator. Going to conference built my belief in the products and business, but I think even more so, it built my belief in myself and in others. I wanted people to do work that was meaningful, just like I was now desiring. I continued to go to conference, would drive hours, sometimes alone, sometimes with at least 1 kid, to any events that were driving distance away, even out of state. We had our 3rd baby, and our doctors were shocked at how well everything looked during my 3rd C-section. It was considered high risk since I had had 3 C-sections in less than 3 years, and our OB could not believe my placenta, umbilical cord, scar tissue, everything. Like, she was in complete shock. And this was the first we realized how much Juice Plus was doing that we really had no way of seeing. It was such a gift after our first 2 pregnancies and how our births had gone. My husband had started his new job, was working longer hours than he had been prior to us moving, which wasn't ideal, but we made it work. I had dreams and goals and desires with the business at this point, and I think my team even knew that I wanted to hit NMD. I was an SSC, and I think the main reason I grew the business at this point in our lives was because I needed people in my life. Our marriage was good, but we really didn't see each other. Basically, we had time for the logistics. People would ask how I built my business with 3 kids under 3, but really, I needed the community. We didn't have family close, and I didn't know very many people where we lived. I needed other moms, and I found them in this business. I needed moms who were feeding their families well and supporting each other, and I found that here. And while things were okay with my husband's work, we, for the second time, questioned if our priorities were where they were supposed to be, and through a lot of struggle, questioned if we truly could change them. At this point, my husband had noticed growth in me, and we went to our first Juice Plus event together. We had hoped that more time as a family was possible, but we had no idea how it could happen. He didn't really see the kids, and that made things hard. for us and for them, and definitely for him. At one point, he stopped at home for lunch, which was super uncommon, grabbed a sandwich, and before leaving again, our oldest daughter ran, hugged him, and said, "Thanks for coming over, Dad." She believed that he lived at his work, and she would ask if we could go to Dad's house. No matter how much I tried to explain, our daughter couldn't understand. Her experience made more sense than anything I was going to try and tell her. So at this point, Juice Plus was bringing in additional money. It was great supplemental income, but definitely not what his full-time work was. Regardless, we took our next leap of faith and became full-time entrepreneurs so that we could be more fully present parents. He started doing work that worked around our family life, and while it was never easy, it has always been worth it. It may have been reckless, irresponsible, but again, it was what we felt like love required. Where we had once craved security, stability, we now had to surrender and sacrifice for our family's greater good, and sacrifice we did. Shortly after he left his full-time work, our heat went out and cost thousands of dollars to fix. Our oven broke, and for months I found other ways to feed our family. We were 20 miles away from the closest town with a grocery store, and this took our minimalism to a whole new level. I still did not miss conference, and we went to our first boot camp. For the first time, we were investing in ourselves and in our business. For the first time, I had the why that I often heard people talking about. We had a desire to live out family life radically different than we'd previously done, and while we were now doing it, it was not sustainable. For the first time, we were the most clear on what we wanted together, but we weren't there. I really needed to grow. We moved again and had another baby. This was our first completely med-free pregnancy and our healthiest pregnancy, and we had a VBAC. Through this birth, so many beliefs I had held were shattered, and I started looking at other beliefs I was holding, a lot of them to do with money, wealth, and work, especially as a mom. I became a student of marriage, of family life, and questioned what it looked like for our family to live well. I started realizing that it required entrepreneurship. Work is intended to serve the common good, and there is work that does that, and there is work that does not, but this work definitely does. It not only was okay to build my business, but love required it. It required having the ability to give to my business when I wanted, how I wanted, and when I could. It was an incredible gift to have this freedom, but I realized all of my years in school had not trained me for it. I would hear in my upline talk about better nutrition doesn't cause problems, it reveals it. It reveals them, and the same is true with the business. Building a business that served others did not cause problems in my marriage. It revealed them. It didn't cause lack of communication. It revealed a new skill we needed to grow in. It didn't cause a lack of planning and poor time management in my home and in my motherhood. It revealed a new skill and mindset that I had the opportunity of growing in. It didn't cause a lack of desires, dreaming, and growth. It revealed we weren't making time for it and that we could feel it when we didn't. It didn't cause financial problems. It revealed that our tendency was to work out of fear and scarcity, and we hadn't learned how to do anything else. It revealed how I showed up as a mom. It revealed lack of order in our home. It revealed how I avoided things I didn't want to do. It revealed how I assumed the worst of prospects, customers, and team. We talk about belief in the products, business, and ourselves, but what about our belief of others? What if we believe that people do want to talk, that people are looking for connection and community, and that people have desires and dreams, no matter how big or small, and that they don't see options for how to chase them? What if people do care about what we are doing? What if people are looking for answers? What if your team needs you to believe in them before they will believe in themselves? What if they would do a connection call? What if they are wanting someone to help coach them on next steps? I did not want to be in sales. I just wanted people to know they could call me when something happened and they needed to talk. I wasn't trying to be a leader. I just wanted to believe in other people and give their family the same options that we had, not just for some business, but because it's what love required for team, our customers, my marriage, and our kids. I can't say I've ever wanted to learn more about nutrition or health just for fun. I want our family to live well. I want our family to have full days with beautiful lives. I'm not talking to you because I reached like some expert level in literally anything. I just think these things are worthy conversations to have. I think it's something that for most of the world, we see getting worse and not better. And we don't have to have the answers for much, but we do have hope in something that is so simple: fruits and vegetables. The month we would hit NMD, or I thought we would hit NMD, I realized it was not going to happen. It was going to take too many points, and I knew that it wasn't possible. And I had lost all belief in myself, but had immense belief in our team. I want their greatest good, probably more than they do. And I think it is honestly one of the biggest honors to get to do life with the people in this business. I felt incapable of showing up for myself anymore, but could definitely show up for them. It was once again what love required. We had a regional at the end of that month that my husband and I were speaking at, and that was a good distraction from the loss, yet again, of it not happening in my timing. And as we had gotten close to NMD, I felt more and more like an imposter. I didn't want to be a leader. I just wanted to help my team. The morning of regional, 3 days before the end of the month, I woke up and we had thousands more points than we needed. I could not understand how it happened. I've heard so many times that God picks our teams, and I continue to think it's true. The people on this mission with us, I could have never picked. I got the call from the company and my upline the morning of Ash Wednesday. It was one of the highest points we'd ever experienced, and I couldn't believe that we'd helped enough people to get there. 40 days later, Easter morning, my husband found a tumor. He got into the doctor's the next day, had a scan, and we heard the C word for the first time: cancer. That same week was conference, and it once again felt irresponsible, reckless, and selfish to even think about being away from my husband and my kids, even for a minute. But once again, my husband said, "We're going." Hearing stories of healing and hope was so necessary for me. And it also felt like salt in a wound when we felt like we were doing so many things right for the first time. It was so fresh and painful. This was not what was supposed to happen. For a month, we were going through the most unknown circumstances, from one appointment to the next, recovering from surgery and surviving. God had provided so well before we even knew what we needed, with the benefits, people, and finances for us to take care of our health well. And I did what I had always done. I stayed connected. A sideline shared how the business became her medicine through family struggle, and that was definitely true for me. I needed real hope and real people to come alongside our family. And once again, that was in this community. Our team started a weekly Stories of Hope call that helped me stay connected and helped me to continue to hope in God's healing. In that same month, we hit 12 Club. And after 5 years of my belief in what we had been growing, I don't just want people to know what we have. I need them to know what is possible for them too. We started our family 6 years ago and this business 5 years ago. We have 4 kids, 6 and under, and have only lived in small towns in rural Nebraska. We have built this business and are here because it's what love required. Thanks for letting me just read that, because there's no way I could have done it otherwise.
Oh my
God. Incredible. It's incredible. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much, Haylie. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for pouring your heart out to us, regardless of if you read it or not, because you touched on different things. And I know we're a couple minutes over, but if you guys want to unmute yourselves and say thank you, if you have any questions, you can ask Haylie or put them in the chat, but thank you so much, Haylie.
Thank you. I hope
So,
it was helpful.
so encouraging. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was
Thanks,
amazing.
Haylie.
Incredible. How old are you, Haylie?
30.
30. Well, congratulations on National Marketing Director. You did a beautiful job telling your story. And I don't care if you read it. It's an amazing story. I heard it the other night and now I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear it again.
Thank
How
you.
is your husband doing now?